Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye. Bye. Let's get straight to this intro. Welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that the gun stays speaking. And I appreciate all the support, right? Thank you. I'm very humbled by it. The humility is real, man. So I've seen a video that was made about an individual, a Norteno, maybe ex-Norteno now, named Grinch. Now, why did that video stand out to me? Well, let me explain something to you. The guy Grinch, in that video, the particular character of him, is a notorious Norteno that he has a different pedigree, okay? He is someone that committed himself to the cause and was willing to do anything and everything for his allegiance to the Norteno movement, including murder, okay? If you recall, there's a lot of news circulating right now about the man Joseph, who was stabbed 180 times by two individuals, two self-proclaimed Norteños on the Salinas Valley prison yard, right? He was stabbed within the building, but on the yard. Now, when that case happened, man, the video started to float around social media. It was released to social media, and it was probably one of the most brutal and heinous removals I've ever seen. I've participated in removals, not at the result of death, but I've participated in getting people off the yard. I've seen plenty of pegadas happen. And I could tell you this one in particular was the most brutal that I had ever seen. And unfortunately, quietly as is kept, the guy who was removed from the prison yard happens to be from my same neighborhood, right? So that was just a little extra punch to the gut right there. And, I understand people do bad things and they go to prison for doing bad things, but the whole experience of prison is the punishment, right? You're not supposed to be punished within the prison for an infraction unless you align yourself with the gang. So I understand that when you sign up for that, and believe me, it's not like you're literally signing a document, but when you sign up for being a gang member, for participating, for your allegiance to a group, well, guess what's going to happen? You're going to be held accountable for everything that goes on. And sometimes it gets very tricky. And sometimes, what out here on the streets would be considered just a right? In prison, it's serious business. Any type of infraction can be at the cost of your life, right? It's not the place you want to grow up and go to. It's not the place a striving youngster that's a gang member wants to be. People used to think that going to prison was a badge of honor. I used to think that going to prison was part of the game. And until I went there, I wasn't a certified gangster. I didn't know what time it was. And there's a lot of people that run around social media, constantly clowning people on, you weren't even on a 4-yard. You weren't even on a 3-yard. You were just on a 1 or a 2-yard, acting like, their being on a 3 or 4-yard is different from anyone else being on a 1 or 2-yard. I'm here to tell you guys right now, man. Being incarcerated in prison, it's all the same thing. There might be different levels of having to watch your back and and different rules and regulations behind certain walls in certain prisons, but it's all the same. You can get your life taken on a 1-yard just as easily as a 4-yard, depending upon the infraction that you've committed and what you've done. That's just the simple truth. Now, Joseph being stabbed 180 times by an individual known as Grinch, it's pretty shocking. It's pretty shocking, right? And it happened. And unfortunately, there's news circulating today that individual Grinch, the same one that was committed to the Norteno cause, so much so that he was willing to take a life on behalf of the movement for whatever the reasoning was, right? Let me tell you something. It's being reported today that man is now in protective custody. Now, what does that mean? Does that legitimately mean he rolled it up? He asked for protection? Or was he sent to a yard, okay, that is not a good yard? I'm going to break it down for you. I know Renegade Media did a video on it. I watched it. And, I got to commend him on his research. And wherever he gets his fucking news from, that's cool, right? but I'm going to give you my perspective and my take on how I feel about the situation. First and foremost, I do talk to the mother of Joseph, and she is a very good woman, a determined woman. You guys see the lawsuit that she filed on behalf of her son and her family, and I'm all for it. I'm all for her holding the correctional officers, the CDCR, and anyone else involved accountable for the loss of her son. You know, she's a mother, first and foremost. She's a grown woman, and she has every right to, you know, put her issues out there. And I believe that she's going to win her lawsuit. But that's neither here nor there. I wanted to tell you about something she told me, man. You know, and it's heartbreaking. You know, this guy Grinch, who allegedly is now in protective custody, this guy, as well as his crime partner, the other guy, it was two guys that stabbed Joseph, right? Continuously, unfortunately, right? And the COs should be held accountable because they did zero to break it up. As I said in my video yesterday, you know, it's funny when a cop gets stabbed, a CO gets stabbed on the yard, they always calm the situation down with physical force immediately. You very rarely hear about a cop getting hit on the yard and succumbing to the injuries. Am I right? When's the last time you heard about a cop getting hit on a California yard and passing away because of it? You don't. They usually get scratched. They usually get poked a little bit. They're usually in the triage or an outside medical facility, and they're out within hours. All the time. They never lose their life. Not that I want them to lose their life. I'm just saying the proof is in the pudding. The pudding is the proof, right? But when it's a gang member or someone on that yard, a prisoner, a convict, it does seem like they're thinning out the herd. They have an agenda. It seems that they always lose their lives. They never get there in time. There's always a blind eye turn. There's always a blinya. Why is it that these guys are allowed to kill other convicts or inmates frequently, but when it comes to a correctional officer, oh, no go? Let that sink in, man. That shows you that people on them yards really don't matter to the CDCR. You're just a number. You are just money. You are just there. And a lot of these people, these COs that walk around the yard, think very little of you. You are inconsequential to their life other than you're their livelihood as far as money goes, but there will always be a replacement. Someone got in my DMs yesterday and said they are thinning the herd. I agree to a certain point, but they can never thin a herd that's consistently evolving and consistently raising in numbers. There's always going to be more people. You hit one, there's going to be two others. It's just what it is. I just think it's very odd and unfortunate that when it comes to the COs, they're always able to stop anyone that's blasting them. But when it comes to an inmate or a convict, it never happens. And we've seen perfect evidence in that video. If you've ever seen that video, Pobrecito Joseph was stabbed over 180 times by Grinch and his crime partner, allegedly. Not even allegedly, it's right there. Just unfortunate, right? The COs definitely could have stopped it. Now, let's get into this. You know, I talked to Joseph's mother. Like I said, man, a very great woman that I stand next to 100% in whatever she's got going on. And you know what's a heartbreaking situation is something she told me was that these two individuals that stabbed her son, Grinch and his crimey, right, were people that she had met in the visiting room, people she actually hugged in the visiting room. She met them and the people that were visiting them. These guys were all friends. They were very close. They got visits all at the same time. She got to know these guys through visiting, these same individuals that turned around and stabbed her son. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, that's just prison. What did he do to deserve that? Well, what he did was mediocre at best. What he did is under investigation, so I can't speak on, right? And there's been a lot of different stories to what he did do to warrant being stabbed that many times or to be made an example or a demo of. And that's exactly what it was. It was that guy Grinch and his crime partner that was laying down a demo. They were striving so hard. They wanted to show just how down they were for the cause and what will happen if you go against the grain and you fall into bad standings. Now, when you're booked or removed on a yard, you're already in bad standings. See, there's a thing that's called a proper procedure within the movement, and there's also a thing called due process. And usually what happens is you do have your due process. I've seen guys that get put on freeze. They are in question from what they've done on other yards for years. Okay, they never get cleared in the household, but they're not removed because no one exactly knows if that infraction that's alleged is facts or not. And if you remove someone that didn't have it coming, then that could be you. Okay, so I've seen it, and it all depends on the individuals that are on the yard, what prison yard it is, exactly what the flow of the yard is. You know, if people are at guerra, if they're at war with the blacks or the Southsiders, I'm speaking on Northerners, right? And they're at war with the whites or whatever, then 9 times out of 10, them guys on freeze, it's one of two things going to happen. They're going to be removed off that yard swiftly, so that way the guys can get back to the business of guerra, or it's going to be all put on hold. It's going to be put on freeze for a while until after the war, right? That's just what I've understood and how I've done time, and that's what's happened while I was there. Now, trip out on this. So unfortunate that this woman met those 2 guys, and them guys smiled in her face and gave her hugs. No mean mugs and shoulder shrugs, but all these good things, and then turn around and violently do that to what they considered a friend. But that just shows you how the disloyalty and how quick you can go from good to no good. You could be the big homie. You could be the good homeboy with all the sopitas, busting the spread. Hey, people are at your door. You got it going on. And one misstep, one, not 2, just one, and you're considered no good. And the cool part is, hey, that's a life or death situation. Okay? But the funny thing is, and if you could say funny, is that other people that don't even know your infraction, don't even know exactly what you did. And it can be something as simple as someone politicking, homeboy favoritism, individualism, or you could have fucked up, really went against the grain, right? But something as simple as a homeboy at visiting thought you were looking at his lady or something, and they could politic on you. And if he has homeboys from his neighborhood there, and he's more of a force to be reckoned with, well, you're going to get reckoned. And there's just a lot of different situations. Now, in this case, like I said, I'm not going to speak on what exactly put him in that position and why they did what they did, but it was crazy. Now, this dude Grinch, right, who stabbed this man, and if you watch that video, unfortunately, went, I thought, way overboard, overkill, man, by some of the things that he did within that removal, right? It's being said now that he is being housed in a medical facility, meaning a psychiatric ward. Now, knowing what I know about the Norteno movement, that is not allowed. You are not allowed to be housed on an EOP yard, a sensitive need yard, a psychiatric ward, or any of those types of things, because that is showing an element of weakness, of cowardice, right? If you are put on said yards at your first opportunity, specifically within 72 hours, you are to get off where you're mad at, off that yard, and get the fuck on and go back to GP and explain why they even felt the need and it was necessary to send you to that yard. Now, I can understand the situation this man is in. This man did a violent and vicious removal that people all around the world have now seen. And of course, when I seen it, I was shocked. Could not even finish it. It took me a while and watching it several times to finally finish it, man. And it was so unfortunate. And the aggressiveness of this individual led me to believe, man, he was really trying to get in where he fit in, right? And he was willing to, at that point, he lost control and was just a rabid dog. That's all I could say about that, right? His soul was gone. He was soulless at that point, right? Now, I'm not making excuses for him and saying that he has psychotic problems, but obviously, subsequently, since he has been placed in administrative segregation for said stabbing, right, there's been a couple incidences that was brought to my attention just recently, like yesterday, as soon as I seen this video and I started to do my own little proper investigations into this video, what I was going to do, right? And it's been told to me that he's been acting out on several occasions, and that is why they felt the need that it was necessary to place him and house him in the psychiatric ward. Now, I seen the video Renegade Media did where he said this man has went to protective custody. Is it necessarily a protective custody facility where he's at? No. Okay, if that man did not volunteer to go to protective custody, you got to understand, man, there's situations where you can go to prisons, go to your ICC, your committee meeting, and say, look, I don't no longer want to be a part of this. You know, place me on a yard where I could program and do my time. Now, you got to understand, this man is still in administrative segregation for the stabbing. He's still, I don't know if he was returned back to the yard yet, because nowadays a lot of guys are getting returned right back to the same yards or moved to a different facility or prison and get right back out on the yard pending their DA referral and what they got going on, because best believe he's going to be charged for that incident. There's no doubt about it. I mean, they got it on film. It's worldwide news, right? This man was taken or took from the facility he was at and placed in a psychiatric ward. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean he PC'd up? Well, we don't know at this point. We don't know if that guy rolled it up and decided, hey, this is an easy out for me. I'm going to go over here to a psychiatric ward and function. Or if he was snatched up or told by a counselor, this is where you're going to go and you have no choice. At that point, this man being housed in a psychiatric ward could only mean two things. One, Renegade Media is right. He has decided to step back and no longer function within the Northern movement because programming or being on that type of yard is not allowed. Okay. Or he's being placed there against his will and does not have action at getting off on anyone. They're keeping him segregated from other people. So he's kind of stuck like Chuck. That goes back to the old thing of when the dropout was happening in mass. The mass exodus, right, is what I like to call, probably about starting around 2003, 2004, all the way to now. There was a mass dropouts, especially within the Norteno movement, right? Southerners were doing it at an alarming rate as well, but the Northerners seemed to be, there was more dropping out. And that was because a lot of the excuse was it was a harder program. It was a hard program, even though I'm not trying to compare programs. I'm not trying to say Southsiders are not harder than Nortenos and Nortenos. I'm not doing that, right? I'm not into that. But I will say this, being a Norteno in them times was a hard thing to do. There was a lot of pettiness. There was a lot of striving you had to do. And some people just didn't make the cut. I myself did not make the cut, right? And it had nothing to do with being weak or being fraudulent or being fake or not wanting to conform to what the Norteno movement was. It had more so to do with the conflict of interest with people not following the program and me, myself, testing the abilities of them to be truthful and really sticking to the grain. When they decided they didn't want to, I decided I didn't want to be right there. Okay, when they decided that I was no longer a solid homeboy because I questioned them too much on hard drug usage, well, then it played out the way it played out, and I'm still here, right? Unfortunately, by me getting off on the yard and doing red on red, I am now considered a piece of shit. I am no good. I am a liability. That was a cowardice act. Funny thing is, the same guy who I got off on 4 months later was metaflighted from the same facility for the exact same thing that I accused him of, which was selling hard drugs and using hard drugs as an act of Norteno, which at that point in time you weren't allowed to do. But it is what it is, right? Can I say I was right? Holla if you hear me, huh? Right? But that still ruined my career, and you know what? I'm glad it did, because it opened my eyes to a lot of what was going on at that particular time. Now, I don't hate the Norteno movement. I'm not disgruntled for the choices I've made in life. None of that. So you're never going to hear me talking ill about them unless I'm talking about some of the bullshit rapping that they're doing. And that's just facts, right? Now, this guy Grinch, if he did decide to PC up like Renegade Media says, if he did decide to lock it up and to say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of that anymore, then that man Joseph is laying in the ground, unfortunately, for nothing. Now, they would have just had someone else do the removal. But this man who stabbed his friend, a person he broke bread with, a person that would have done anything to protect him from the opposition, he took that man's life, and now he decides, I no longer want to be a part of that. Well, that's just a fucking foolish and a cowardice move if I ever seen one. Now, I'm not sitting here and saying that's exactly what he done, because there really is no proof to the pudding to say that he PC'd up or he backed up. Just because you're being placed in a medical facility or a yard that's no good doesn't mean you asked to go there. It means you're housed there, you're placed there. Now, if he stays there for an extreme amount of time, well, then yes, he's conforming to the program, and he absolutely is considered a PC case, considered a sensitive needs yard type person, and is no longer in good standings. For someone who was that violent and vicious and did what he did, it's hard to think that he would go that route. But I've seen worse. I've seen people that were dedicated to a cause for 20, 30, 40 years and just get tired. They just get tired of the redundancy of the same old thing. Like I said, there's always going to be new gang members that are indoctrinated and that come into the facilities. And some of them have bad paperwork. Some of them are not in the best of the traditions of the Norteno movement. And it's just a consistent and constantly thing of lockdown, removal, the trash. You guys see it. It's all the time and never stops. Doesn't matter what era, doesn't matter what creed, what religion, none of that matters. When you dedicate yourself to a certain element of the cause, man, and you are not righteous in their eyes, you got to go. That's the game. And it sucks, but it is what it is, right? So I don't know if this guy Grinch did that, but to me, you know, the individual to do something like that after what he did, I'm not shocked, right? Sometimes while doing it, that bloodlust, you lose your mind when you're involved and you're going all out just for the recollection of the guys that are screaming on the chair so they can clap, and then they're going to go about their business and you're going to be forgot about. And then being housed alone with them memories can drive any man crazy. Now, I'm not saying he's got psychiatric problems, but he is being housed in a psychiatric facility. Is it considered PC? I don't know, but one thing I can tell you is it's considered no good. You know, fire camps for Norteños were no good. You know, level 1s were considered no good. There's been level 4s and level 3s for Norteños that were considered no good. I remember when I got to Susanville, which was a level 3 yard, Lassen yard, I was questioning the authenticity of what the Norteños had going on. Of course, I was quickly taken to the whole administrative segregation while they were housing us till they were flipping the yard, because that was a 50-50 yard before I got there, meaning the Norteños were not functioning. And I knew that. When I was in Tracy prison, I was reading up on what places were good, what places were not good, because I was an active Norteño. And I already was sticking to the grind, saying that wherever I go, if it's not a good place, I'm going to get off. Case in point, that's where they send you sometimes. They know, believe me, CDCR knows, just like the board knows every answer to the questions they ask you. The CDC knows exactly who they're sending to where. There's never a mistake. You hear about all these mistakes. Oh, they opened the door on accident. He was a rookie. That's not a fucking mistake. They don't make mistakes, because if they continuously made mistakes, then nobody would be there anymore, right? There's no mistake about it. They know exactly who they're sending, what your fucking level of gangbanging is, and what's going on that yard. So believe me, they know that if they send a certain Norteño there, their whole plan is hopefully if we send him there, he'll stay. Same thing with the Southsiders. If we send him there, he'll stay, right? And that's one less fucking guy we have to worry about. But they know 9 times out of 10, the guys that they're sending there, depending upon their G file, their C file, whatever you call it, are going to get off, and they're patiently waiting for that. And what are they going to do? They're going to lock you up, blame you for getting off on that yard. Maybe if you're lucky, you get shipped to a general population yard where you belong, or they're going to keep doing it until they break you. And dudes get tired. It sucks to have to constantly get off. Now, there are those that just will continue to do it, and there are those that give up after the 3rd or 4th time. It just is what it is. It's kind of like a person who gets stabbed on the yard. They don't do it necessarily anymore, because usually they send guys to SNY. But back in the days, a dude would get hit on the yard, and he's not refusing to go back. He'll go back. He'll get hit again. He'll go back. He'll get hit again. He'll go back. And those people are like, damn, man, that motherfucker's a savage. But he still ain't no good. They're going to continue to hit him on every yard. Doesn't matter what you do, how much blood you shed, man. When you're no good, you're considered no good. And that's it. With that being said, I don't know if this guy Grinch PC'd up like Jay Hands from Renegade Media is saying he did, but he's definitely functioning on a yard that is considered no good. And that's facts. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly and honestly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people, man. This video is sponsored by Vario Liquors out there in Turlock, California. If you're in the Turlock area, make sure you guys pull up to the Vario and go support that local business. Also by Sticks and Stones Yard Service in Tucson, Arizona. Google him, look up his number, man. And if he's in your direct and immediate area, he'll look out for you. Again, look out for small raza business owners. And of course, by Veterans Benefits Consulting, I will be bringing you the details about that particular situation very soon. We got to help each other out, especially our veterans, man. This is the gun. Bang, bang.